Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter podcast is also proudly presented by T&K Hunting Gear. If you haven't heard about T&K, then it's about time you do. I've been using T&K gear out in the field and on hunts and have fallen in love with their stuff. T&K is veteran-owned and 100% made in America using only American-made products. All their gear is covered under a lifetime warranty with no questions asked. If it breaks or fails, they will fix it or replace it for free. T&K is your resource for bino harnesses, bow slings, and a lot more amazing gear. For more information about T&K Hunting Gear, go to tnkhunting.com or search for them on Facebook and Instagram. I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Freedom on and stay soulful. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Johnny Mack here with the Soulful Hunter podcast. Just to give you a little heads up that we are doing an epic Christmas giveaway. We have so many different companies on board that have volunteered just their time and effort and also wonderful products to help support the Washington Backcountry and Soulful Hunter community. We've collaborated with Revel Entertainment on this, and we got some killer giveaways that is not necessarily for you. This is something that you get to bless other people in your life by nominating them to win this package. So you always hear me talk about on the podcast that you can't outgive good, and I am a 100% believer in that. So to go and nominate somebody for an epic Christmas giveaway, go to wabackcountry.com or you can go to soulfulhunter.com and you can see the giant picture on there. Click on that. It'll give you the information, and then you'll follow the link to submit a nomination. You can also go to our social medias and click on the link in our bios, and that will take you there as well. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to the Soulful Hunter podcast. I hope you are gaining a lot of insight and information that is helping you to just transform your life each and every day and moving forward. Remember, this world is working for you. It's not happening to you. So keep your head up, stay positive, go nominate somebody for the epic Christmas giveaway. And as always, everybody, stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Tonight, I am joined by a lovely, lovely person who I had the pleasure of meeting this summer and getting to actually shoot at my very first walkthrough archery course, and that is Brittany Gaither, and she is known by the social media world as Just a Lady with a Bow. But for all you listeners out there, she is more than just a lady with a bow, and she's got a lot to offer. And so we're joined with her tonight to talk about what it's like for her to become a hunter as an adult, what it's like to do that and be a mom and be a wife and be a professional and all these things. And then on top of it, not only learning how to hunt, but doing it with a bow and arrow has its own struggles. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Brittany, thank you so much for joining me for an episode.
Oh, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that having me on.
My pleasure.
I'm pumped about this.
We're sitting here here in the great state of Washington, and it is dumping snow outside. Tomorrow is my son's birthday. We got Christmas just around the corner. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. I mean, just all good things. Life is good. We're about to end 2020 and kick off 2021. And we're having a lovely conversation. So thank you for joining. Thank you, listeners, for listening to this episode. Brittany, let's just dive into the hot and heavy real quick. Like, you're not just a lady with a bow. Who are you? who is Brit Gaither?
This is a great question. Could you tell me? No, I'm kidding. So Just the Lady with the Bow is kind of my humorous way of kind of starting the Instagram account. It was, I like to bring humor into anything that I do, but I think it's great to show the struggles and the process of learning something and just showing that not everything's perfect. And I think when we are able to laugh at ourselves and also enjoy the process, it's better. But no, I'm not just a lady with a bow. I happen to be, my husband and I are self-employed. We have 3 children. And up until recently, I had no hobbies that I had ever stuck with. I hadn't even really been, I couldn't say I was a sportsman. I couldn't say that I was really anything. Nothing had gripped my heart like archery actually had. So when I started the bow account, that was my way of partly just having a place that I could share my story without maybe annoying every friend and family member in my personal life with every photo and every, different little thing. I wanted to share it with people that also have the same passion. And that's what I found in the IG community or Instagram community is like people are really passionate about their hobbies. And that has been super fun because had I not been doing that, I don't know that I would have met you. I'm sure maybe I would have through Clint Eastley at some point, but yeah, it opened up a whole new world to me.
Yeah, social media, it has its pros and its cons, but one of the pros is that you get to connect with people that you wouldn't normally connect with, and it's opened the doors to so many different opportunities. And I love hearing it. Your husband Ryan, an awesome dude, and it's really fun getting to build those relationships with you guys. What kicked you off into pursuing archery? And then archery started first, correct? And then it got into hunting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Take us through the journey. Like, what was your progression? You're a mom of 3 kids. You said you had no hobbies. Your husband hunts, and he's a pretty good hunter by social media and non-social media standards. Like he knows what he's doing. Yeah. It's fun to watch him. And here you are at home. What got into you? Yeah, what happened?
Yeah. So we moved to a different city around 2012. I was pregnant at the time. So I'll take you back to the original part of where archery began for me. 2012, my husband was a pretty avid fisherman, and he was just as extreme with his fishing as he is now with hunting. And at that time, I really encouraged him to go into hunting because I thought that it meant that his season would only be 2 weeks long, because that's what all wives had told me up until that point was like, hey, my husband goes, he's gone for 2 weeks. It's no biggie. So at that time, I was encouraging him to get into hunting, and archery had always been something actually in my heart. So it had been something that I was interested in as a Girl Scout. I remember I mentioned this once before, but I saw this Girl Scout camp brochure that my mom had brought home, and it had archery in the brochure. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. No, I made friendship bracelets. There was no archery. I felt like that was a bait and switch situation on me when I was like 10 years old. But that's really when it had started. And so when I had encouraged Ryan, like, hey, why don't you just do the hunting thing? That'd be pretty dope to have you be doing that. I said, why don't you get a bow? I'm interested. So right as he was getting in, he picked up my very first bow. It was a Bear brand youth bow. I think I shot it more than, maybe once or twice, really not very often because we didn't have space at the time. And during that time, we ended up actually purchasing land to build our house and kind of do a homestead situation here. And he got a big target and had been practicing, but I really hadn't, I didn't really have connections in the social aspect to want to really pursue it on my own. I wasn't driven at that point to really go out there and be shooting arrows. Plus I lost like 5 arrows that, I only had like 6 arrows at the time when we bought it. So
it makes it tough for sure.
Oh yeah, made it super tough. So we fast forward. Okay. So that was 2012 to like 2014, hadn't really shot it. Then, come the season of 2019, I'd actually taken a break in my life from some kind of bad habits that I had begun to do. I had a lot of stress. Work was mounting up. There was a lot going on in our world as far as work and family commitments, social things. And I had kind of begun having some bad habits of actually, alcohol was one of the issues for me. That was a true issue that was becoming a pattern. It wasn't, I wasn't an alcoholic per se, but I noticed this pretty negative pattern in my life. And so stepping back from that and actually allowing myself to go through the process of like, what is it that I like? What is it that I'm running from, which was mainly stress at that time? What is it that I enjoy? I found myself about 6 months into that journey really ticked off, to be honest, and kind of at a stopping point of like, I'm not processing my emotions and I'm just kind of stuck. And this was around November and December of last year. So 2019, around November, December, I remember one day I picked up that bow that had been hanging up for 4 years untouched. And I walked myself out to the range and I just shot, I think I shot probably 60 arrows that day after not ever really shooting. I just would go back, pull them. But every shot, Johnny, tears rolled actually down my face because I just met this moment, and I believe I met with God in this moment of just total healing. It was like I didn't have to talk about it. I didn't have to speak out loud what was going on. But every time I heard that arrow just slam that target and thump, it was healing. And it just suddenly something came alive in me. So in December, at the very end of December last year, I purchased my very first hunting bow. I walked into Riverside Archery. I'm pretty sure I had high heels on at the time. And I think that the guys at the counter were like, who the heck is walking in here buying her first bow? Although they did not judge me. I don't think that they did, but I think they didn't think I was serious at that time. Probably, I'd imagine. So if they're listening to that, they would laugh too. Then what happened was I was there like every week because there was a little range. You could shoot, you pay $5. You could just shoot as many arrows. And I remember maybe like 2 months in, one of the owner's son, Jason, he said, Brittany, can I ask you a question? Do you have a life? Like, what do you do beyond archery? Because I would come in and just spend my whole afternoon there. And it was a joke. He was being really silly at that time, but I really did fall in love with it. And so, and then I learned, hey, you could be 36 years old, 35 years old and still compete on as far as you want to go. There's no limitation to archery as far as competing. So that's when I got into target archery. And at the same time, found the IG community and then found all these awesome hunters and I don't really love the word huntress because it just kind of feels weird to me, but all these women that were hunting and like kicking butt doing it. And it sparked something that, you know what, maybe I could get into this with my husband. Maybe this is something that I've limited my vision for. And so I jumped in full force, bought a hunting bow, bought a target bow in the same like 2-month period of time. And I got serious about it. Does that answer it? I don't know.
Man, that is so incredible. I'm just here sitting, thinking to myself about the tears rolling down your face every time you were drawn back a bow. Let's dive in more to that before we even talk about the hunting side. Why was archery so healing for you?
You know, it's interesting. So for me in my life, I don't have any problem I don't have any problem sharing my struggles and my pains with people or, trusted people I want to open up to. But oftentimes, Johnny, it's like talking about a movie. So I'm really outside of the experience. I'm just sharing an experience. I'm really not connected emotionally. Usually I don't mean to be that way. It just happens for me. Right. So, but to be alone with my thoughts, that scared the heck out of me. To be alone with my thoughts, if somebody asked my husband, tell me about your wife and does she like to be alone? I wanted to be alone at times. I wanted to be someone that could just go withdraw and go up into the mountains and come back refreshed. Actually, I was just really freaked out about what was up between my ears, what was in my brain, the thoughts, pain, things I really did not want to work through in my life at that time, or I wasn't prepared for what that would mean. And I didn't realize that I was shutting down as a person until that day that I shot those arrows. And as I just sat there, it was such an amazing release of energy. I mean, physical energy was just released out. But I felt like in that moment, I kind of met a part of my calling, if you will. Just not that I'm defined by archery, but that it's a gift that I get to do. And it's a gift that I can pursue and be good at if I want to. If I want to put the energy and the time into it, I felt like at that time, God was saying, here's something that I have for you. And I didn't have to speak a word. I just sat there and something healed that day in my heart. And it does every time I go and I shoot. I always feel better when I come back, just because it's just that moment that I get to quietly sit and not have to think, but also somehow I'm able to process my emotions through that, if that makes sense.
It totally does. It's such a beautiful thing. And there's a reason why this podcast is called The Soulful Hunter.
Yes.
And the last episode I released, episode 65, it was just me talking about untethering your soul, about how life is energy. It takes energy to grow stuff. It takes energy to release it. Energy is just constantly moving. And so here you are with all this pent up energy within your body that was negative energy. And in my mind, I'm getting a visual picture of every single time that you draw back that arrow and you loose it. That is that negative energy going downrange, saying, I don't want this anymore. And I'm sending it. And there's a lot of times I've had a lot of conversations with people. They have a hard time looking themselves in the eye. Like they'll stand in front of the mirror and brush their teeth, but they won't actually look into who they are. And it's really beautiful that you came to a precipice in your own life to reach that conclusion and know that you needed something to both put your energy into, but also release your energy from. And it's beautiful that it went this direction, because there's a lot of directions, like you said, mentioned alcohol early on. There's a lot of directions that people allow themselves to put their energy into other things that are not going to bring life and produce fruit in their life that is beneficial. Here you are, a mother, a wife, and all this stuff, but before all that, we're individuals. And I think that's so often missed, especially in marriages. Like people are like, well, I'm a wife now, or I'm a husband now. It's like, okay, I am one with that other person. Well, yes, but you're also your own identity before that and after that. And so to find who you are and what you want, I talk about this on the podcast all the time. You have to identify what it is you want. And if you want healing, then go to something that heals you. If you want fulfillment, then find something that fulfills you. Find something that does it, though, that brings life, not just to you, but through you. And I think it's beautiful that archery is that thing, because the part of this podcast that we always talk about, that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. But the act of what hunting is, it's not just the killing, it's everything that leads up to it. So it is you just shooting a bow at a target. It is like, I'll call that hunting for the sake of it, but really it is you being still in the moment with your thoughts, your creator, your existence, and making a choice of what you want in life and what you want out of life. And for my buddy Lucas listening to this podcast, it's about how you show up in life. This is the beauty of what I think life is, and why hunting is so powerful, and shooting a bow and shooting a gun and really like calming and settling yourself down and being like, okay, I was made for this. I was made for this. I can do this. This is so beautiful. So here you are, you're healing, you're really diving into the archery. What was a transition from target archery to hunting? Obviously your husband hunts, but you as an own person has to make that conclusion, like, okay, this is the next step.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So prior to starting my page, I was already starting to kind of follow some of Ryan's friends and follow different connections. He would share things with me, like, check this out. And for us at that time, prior to it, Johnny, it was a very stressful couple years, and we would both say that openly. We had failures in our business, different situations, financial stress, raising kids that's not always the most easy thing. Everybody needs, they need your time, they need your energy, and you want to give that to them. And sometimes you just don't always have the time, especially if you have, well, I always said like one is just as much energy as having three or kids. I feel like it was just as intense with one as it's been with three, and they're a joy and they're the light of our lives. At the same time, it does take a concerted effort to make sure that all those needs are met. So, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. I'll get back to it. Okay, so I'm back. That's how quick I came back to that. So Ryan was finding this passion with hunting, which Ryan had always been very. He's amazing. Anything that he puts his mind to, if he wants to, he will excel at, or he will make himself excel there. He's very dedicated, and that was not. My life had been, prior to this time, a series of big starts and then just petering out on things. I would find these little hobbies, and I remember just longing to want something that fulfilled me like it had fulfilled him. But I, in my heart, thought that's just for him. I could see it in my mind. So I was like ready to hunt. I could see myself hunting. I could see all those things, but pride stood in the way that this is your thing that you do. I do this. Other stuff, creative. I'm at home. Just different little things that I was trying to explore, like art and things like that. But I had shut down my soul, really honestly, to really wanting to find out what it was all about for him, because I just determined that this is just a man's thing. Not that I didn't know females that were hunters. I just hadn't known anyone in my community around me. There were no females that I was in connection with doing the same thing. And for me, it's a lot about relationships, to be honest. And it's just exactly your heart and what you've talked about, connecting with others in that journey of learning and having mentorship means a lot to me personally. So as I get into archery, and the reason I started the Just the Lady with the Bow page was because my husband had encouraged me, why don't you just do that? Just start one. There's lots of women that do shooting, that shoot bows, that are into archery or even into hunting. You might really enjoy that. So he had really encouraged me, and I went for it. At that time, I found, whoa, there's an amazing community out there. They just don't happen to be physically in my county. But does that mean that I won't find them? Maybe this will be the way that I do. So through that, truly just following some pages and then meeting other hunters, male and female, I got pretty pumped, and I thought, why not? Why not try it? And I'm a decent shot. I'm not gonna lie. I
love it.
I can, but I've worked really hard to get there, and so it excited me to. I told Ryan, I said, if I'm going to hunt, I want to start with archery, and he was like, yeah, go for it. Let's do this, and I had lots of opportunities this year. Oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I've got kids in the background. Well, that's real life of a mom. So my kids somebody just screamed and fell down, and Ryan will deal with it. But sorry about that.
No worries. It's the beauty of life. I mean, I could edit stuff out, but at the same time, I'm also a parent of 3 kids. I know what it's like to be interrupted during podcasts and all these things. This is okay. There's beauty in it. Okay,
I appreciate that.
So here you are. You went into this journey of hunting, and you had quite the experiences this year.
Yes.
So here you are. Now, as a man, I've had to learn how to conquer my own fears of being alone in the woods, and then alone in the dark, and then too often hunting is like this macho man world, like, oh yeah, I'm fine, nothing bothers me. Oh yeah, I can do it by myself. And it's like, okay, well, I think that's not the reality for a lot of people. Hunting by themselves is awesome for the people that need it, but not everyone enjoys being solo and putting themselves in positions which are uncomfortable mentally and emotionally and community, and the list goes on.
Oh yeah.
I prefer to hunt with other people.
Hmm.
But even when I was with other people, I was still scared to be in the woods. Like literally, my first animal killing a black bear, I was in my tent at night, being like, "Oh man, I hope a bear doesn't come into camp." And I'm like just slapping myself, metaphorically, like, "No, man, if a bear
Right.
comes in the camp, then that's awesome because you're gonna kill it, and then that's why you're here." But these things just rolled through my mind, and so I had to overcome a lot of things. And this is where I really feel the transformation process happens within hunting, is that when you dig deep within your soul to figure out who you are, what makes you tick, how you show up, then life all of a sudden like gets laid out in front of you and it allows you to walk through these
Yes.
opportunities. And
How cool is that?
yeah,
Yeah.
and I truly believe like the thoughts that we create in our mind and the words we speak into existence is what our reality starts to become. And we, you start thinking, oh man, it's always raining on me. Well, it's going to be always raining on you. So, like, what do you want to
Yes.
create in your world?
Yes.
So, here,
Super agree with that statement. Yes. Okay. That's amazing. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, let's go. So,
Yeah.
you, from without spoiling some stories, had quite some encounters while you were hunting.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
take us, the listeners, through your experience of what hunting season was like this year.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, first of all, I wasn't scared to be alone, but that's not because I'm without fear. That is by no means the case. In fact, I would say up until age 30, I was a very fearful person, pretty much of anything. So at age 30, on my 30th birthday, I made a commitment to myself that anything that scares me, that will not harm me would not harm my spirit. Okay. So like things that are challenging, but it's just me having to deal with my own adrenaline. It's just me having to put all my fears aside. I was going to pursue because I was sick of being held back by my own what ifs. Of course, now I would not put myself in a harmful situation, being dumb, just by making a dumb choice. I would think through that stuff. But I made a challenge to myself. So my 30th year, I decided to go river rafting, do all the things that I was terrified to do. And that kind of led me down a path of saying, yeah, I'm in. I'm going to do stuff. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to go for it. Right. So my daughter at 7, she became, I think she may have been up in that year, the youngest girl to have gotten her Washington State hunter's license. And my daughter in her little flip flop killed more animals than most people have in many, many years, right? I mean, her success rate was incredible. And the day she came home with her black bear and I saw that she was not afraid, that inspired me. She's 15 now. She inspires me continuously. I'll be out there knowing that I'm going after a bear and I will be shaking and I'll be thinking, Ava can do this. If Ava can do this, I definitely can do this. I can do it. So my hunting season collides with Ryan's hunting season, and he's definitely a Steep and Solo. At Steep and Solo is his name on Instagram. He's definitely solo, so he likes to go way back into the mountains, and I have some physical limitations that don't take me there currently at this moment. And so we have a piece of property, and we have black bear, we have cougars, and we have deer on that property. And so I didn't really think that I'd have any scary encounters. So I just started going by myself and I was very excited to do so. When I thought I was going to shoot a bear, I was nervous. There's no denying going up there, having your rifle on your back, your very first time. But I don't know what it was in me, Johnny. It was the belief system that I could do it and that I don't need to be afraid. And I had a husband who has, we have bears, we eat bear all the time. We have bears, hanging up on our, in our office, things like that. And he would just tell me, you don't need to be scared of them, So I think that I was lulled into a sense of safety, probably that maybe other people would not have experienced just because I've been around it so much with my kids and with my husband. But no, I didn't feel fear. Do you want me to tell this? I didn't feel fear until one experience. There's only one experience and that changed everything.
Yeah, share it. This is your first.
Okay,
This is your first
okay.
year of hunting, right?
This is my very first year of hunting.
Yes.
So Yes, this is my very first year of hunting. The first thing I went after were bears. We didn't see any. And then archery opened up, early archery. And so my husband had went and we picked out a blind, set it up. And I was determined that I would just go sit in that blind every day of early archery, knowing that I'd have a limited season in the wintertime due to work. So I'd go out there. And so I'd take my bow and walk up. I would park about a mile down, maybe half a mile down from where my blind was. And then I'd sneak in and be all quiet. And I went there night after night. And one night, Ryan had already gone elk hunting. He was gone and he was totally across he was down in Mount Rainier area. And I was by myself and I knew that my days were limited. So I was going to go for it regardless of him being around. I'm pretty independent, always have been in that sense, but this is a little different type of independence that I had never experienced, but was super empowering. It was a really cool moment. And I have my bow on my back and a little 22 because let's be honest, I did not fully know how to use all the other handguns in our house. I was not, even though I've shot them, I'm not skilled at loading them, getting it all ready. I didn't feel comfortable, nor did my husband want to put one on my hip that I wasn't comfortable shooting. So I had this little 22. The clip is separate on my hip. Okay. So I'm not expecting, we hadn't seen a cougar in years. We had seen a cougar once before. I'm not expecting to encounter anything other than possibly a black bear and hoping for a deer. So I'm walking up and I'm stoked because as I'm coming up after like a quarter of a mile, I'm walking up and I see this tan body. It's kind of in a ravine where our land kind of hits a field, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, there it is. I'm ready. I got this. And I've got my bow ready. I'm thinking I'm looking at a deer is what I'm imagining. And I snuck up so quietly up on that creature. And I get within 20 yards. I think it was actually like 18 yards. And suddenly a big tail comes up. And this moment of like, oh my heavens, I am looking at a cougar right now. And I realized there's not a single person that's going to hear me scream. I am going to be this cat's meal tonight. Like this was it was terrifying. There's no way to prepare for that feeling or emotion. I would have thought that I would have screamed. I did not. I actually calmed. My whole body calmed down. And I pulled out that little 22 and I loaded the clip. And the first time I shot, it didn't even go off. And the 22 is a dumb thing to try and shoot at a cougar. But at this point, it was just like, what am I going to do? I cannot be eaten by this cat. And the cat turned it quartered towards me, looked me directly in the eye, like all hunched over. And I realized it wasn't going anywhere. And so I better go somewhere because this thing's going to come out. And anyways, it got a deer. It was on a kill. So he wasn't going to leave his kill. And I shot not at it to kill it. I shot near it to scare it. And I walked backwards to my truck, slowly shooting every, couple steps. I don't even know how many shots I took, like just a few. Shaking the whole time, but it was about a quarter of a mile backwards downhill that I walked, just shooting every few steps. And I got to that truck. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off, but I have a couple questions.
That's it. Nope.
Okay.
I got to that truck shaking. Yeah.
So here you are, a brand new hunter. You're out solo, and you have a bow in your hand or a rifle.
No, I have my bow on my back and a little 22 on my hip.
So
yeah.
So when you were creeping up on this animal,
okay,
how come? I got to ask you because the listeners are going to want to know this. Why did you not have your bow in hand, and why was the arrow not knocked, ready to shoot? Because you thought it was a deer.
Yes. Okay. Great question. I pulled the bow around the side of me and I was ready to start loading. I had the arrow in my hand and I was starting to knock it. That is true. And when I saw that tail go up, I immediately put my arrow. I left my arrow on the ground. I had to go get it back the next day. I tossed the arrow. I was like, oh, heck with this. Nope. And that is when I flung my bow. And okay, so if it's not an aggressive animal, if that was just like an animal that wasn't going to try and eat me or attack me, I would have felt very confident in that shot. But in that moment, I wondered if my nerves would get the best of me and if I wouldn't be able to shoot it correctly. And then I would have a real problem. So that's when I slid it backwards. I was trying to be quiet and stealthy. And that's when I shot that 22. I've learned how to shoot since then, and I will never take a 22 again on my property by myself. But we've learned some lessons. Yeah.
It's so amazing. People go an entire lifetime waiting to find a cougar. Your first season out, you get within 20 yards of one. You could have shot it.
Mm-hmm.
You could have had your first big game animal be a cougar.
Mm-hmm.
But wow, that's so incredible. So let's fast
So
forward.
I went back for it. So sorry.
So you went back for it a couple times.
Oh, I went back. I called my husband. I said, I'm going back tomorrow. And I did take a rifle out. I had another encounter with it, but it ducked behind a tree. So I did see the cougar twice, really up close. The second time I had my rifle and I could absolutely not get a shot on it in time. So, but it didn't scare me. That excited me, actually. I was like, now I'm not going to be surprised. I'm going after you, buddy. And that's going to be a whole another situation.
So crazy. So crazy. Okay. So fast forward to late archery season.
Mm-hmm.
And you are back in the blind because you were not successful. That cougar killed all the deer you were after. So you had to wait for more to come in, and something magical happens.
Yeah. So actually I got a doe. This is my first year hunting. So I did get my first animal, and it was a doe. And the most beautiful thing about that is that we were coming up on the blind. I don't know how many hours I sat in that blind. If every day that I could hunt, I was hunting. So I was sitting there easily 3 hours, 2.5 hours a day. Also walking the property when I could. I will be honest, after the cougar incident, I didn't want to go solo anymore. That's really not very fun to sit in a blind and be a sitting duck. That kind of freaked me out pretty bad. So anytime I could get Ryan to go with me, I would go up to the property. And one day as we were coming up, we saw she looked like a buck, actually, because she was stuck. She was kind of under in the branches at first. But when I got out, we were driving up, then we spotted her. I got out of my truck, went up. This is our private land, our private road and stuff. And then we hiked up a little ways when we spotted her. So Ryan says to me, Brittany, that's going to be a tough shot. It's a doe. Do you want to take her? And I knew that I did. I actually did. And I felt that this is going to be really good food for our family. I have very limited time. And this was a very challenging shot that I was very excited about making. So the shot itself, I wouldn't have taken if I didn't believe I could fully do it. Number one, because I do believe in ethical, taking an ethical shot, making sure that you're prepared for that. She was behind some branches and a little, basically I had to thread the needle, if you're familiar with that. So I had to be able to take a shot, go straight through, kind of slide it through some branches. And the most crazy thing happened, and this is what solidified for me that this really is a passion. Something happened, Johnny, where my whole body went into like its own mode that I was not in control of. I took that, it was like everything I had trained for came into motion, and I felt, in a sense, out of body experience. I'm not going to say that it was that intense, but it was like my brain stopped and my body took over. And I took that shot, and it was it ended up being a really amazing shot. Got her right in the lungs. So she passed away really quickly, so she wasn't suffering. Ran down about 60 yards, and we found her. But that was the moment that I knew, for me, this isn't just a one-time deal. This is like, I'm excited, and next time I want to do a harder hunt. Like, that actually was the part about that hunt that made me a little. There's just this part where I wished I had gone after it even harder, if that makes sense.
Yeah, unfulfilled.
Yeah. And I honored, I want to honor her life, that this is a gift God gave us and all of that. But there was this part of me like, I should have been in the mountains for a day, at least doing some hard stuff to make that shot. But what a cool experience. And yeah, definitely solidified it for me that I'm both a hunter and a target archer competitively.
I love it. How far of a shot was it?
She was about 30 yards, 32 yards. And it was all, it was an angle, downhill. So that's a fun shot. Cause when you and I and the guys had gone out, that was the first time I had ever done those angled shots out on that field course. That was fun and a really cool challenge. So I've been practicing those. So yeah, it was a downhill shot straight through some branches. Had to, thread the needle. I was pretty stoked about that. Yeah. The technicality of it.
I love it, and I would have to agree 100%. So I had one archery kill this year. Next year I'm going to have more because I really want to arrow a bear. That's my one of my bucket lists. And I had an opportunity on a spring bear, but then decided to hop on the rifle. When it came to my last kill of the year, which was archery elk here in Western Washington, I spotted this. I had a cow elk tag, a permit where I could either shoot a 3-point or better bull, or I could shoot a cow. And I was like, dude, I'm shooting a cow 100%. I'm on this. Last light, spot an elk. Got to be more. It's out in like this field area, and it goes behind this like what I would identify as an island within this field of brush. So I knew that it was going to be on the other side. The wind was good. I couldn't, they couldn't see me as long as they couldn't smell me. And so I went full draw, and we filmed all this. And all you listeners out there, you're going to actually get to see this when we start releasing these videos that we've been filming this year. But I went full draw on this elk before I even saw it. And then I stepped out and then just kind of kept side shuffling. And like you were saying, it's out of body experience. Everything slowed down for me. I didn't even hesitate or think twice about the shot that I took. Obviously you have to know your equipment and you have to know yourself and all this stuff, but I didn't range the elk. I never had time to range because I was at full draw before I stepped out so I could shoot it. But knowing distance and yardage and understanding, I shoot a 5-pin sight, so I know what the drop looks like. And I'm like, okay, 70 pin, here we go. And I stepped out and sent it in the arrow, slow motion. I could just see the lighted knock just twirl as it went and just sunk in to that elk. And I was like, yeah. And really life slows down. And I feel like this might sound bad, but it's not meant to sound bad. We are naturally predatory animals. Our eyes are on the front of our faces. They're not on the side of our heads. Like, we are doing what we are meant to do. And kill mode, the killer inside of me just naturally came out. And I was like, okay, I have found what I was meant to do. This is not to say it's easy, because it's not. But it felt easy in that moment. Like the stars aligned, the door opened. I did what I was supposed to do and what I was meant to do. It was epic. So I could only imagine exactly what it was like. And you're like, okay, not to minimize the life of the doe that you took, but you're like, okay, now I'm ready for something else.
Yeah. It gave me that opportunity. You play these scenarios out in your head, like, oh, I can't wait for this moment. And if you're someone that's very honest with themselves, and I think, most people, I believe, try to be, I'm very honest with myself in the sense of like, what I always go through every scenario, Johnny, like, what will I do if this happens? What would I do if that, will I choke? Will I not? I think about that stuff. And after that moment, realizing my body is actually created to partially for this specifically, and there's going to be other things too, right? But is exactly like you said. You felt like you stepped into something that you knew that you were created to do. I felt like I stepped into something that my ancestors have done. I stepped into something primal that there is no way to describe it to anyone that maybe hasn't experienced. I guess you could describe it, but, and maybe you can put some verbiage to what I'm saying. It's hard to share this except for when you meet with people that have had these experiences, or you're talking about it and telling a new hunter, like, it's something amazing when it does take place. And it's a lot of responsibility. I feel responsible for the life I'm taking. I feel like I should honor that animal fully. And it felt so cool to know that my whole year of taking most days, taking 30, actually most practices are like an hour and a half for me. So I'm shooting about 100 arrows when I'm actively practicing. If not, it's, around 30. To see that every time I've shot an arrow has led me up to this point where I would feel confident in that my body was able to take over in that moment and do what I've trained it to do without very little thought, but also I was there. I was present just in this very amazing way that it's really hard to describe. I'm sure that most athletes or people that have had these high moments in their life, or these big successes, I think when you experience that, it's a really amazing, just a really amazing feeling and very hard to explain.
I want to jump in here for a second and share that. I don't think this happens for all hunters, because Tony, my hunting partner, who he was like, he was kind of in shock when I took the shot, and he was like, I don't think, he goes, no, I know I would not have been able to do that. He was like, how did you, like, I was like, dude, I just did it. It literally, like, I saw my target, I visualized it, I out of bodied it, whatever it is, like I did what I was meant to do. And that's no other way to say it. Like like you can close your eyes or turn off all the lights off in your house, and your house so well that you don't bump into things, because you're like, okay, I've walked this path to the sink, or I've walked this path to the fridge so many times that you just know it. I can say that that's the exact same feeling with being a hunter for me. And it sounds like for you, it doesn't matter how many times you've actually killed an animal, but when you are in that moment, it's meant to be. It literally,
1,000%.
This is where you're not just a lady with a bow, but where Brittany is meant to be, where she's at. And it all started with the courage that you had to pick up a bow and to start challenging who you are as a person, and releasing that energy that built up inside you. And look at all the good that's come from you pouring into your own life. It's special. This is the transformation through primal adventure that I want listeners, and I want the hunting world and the non-hunting world to understand. Like, the Soulful Hunter is here to reimagine and reinvent hunting, to touch on the topics that it's hard to put into words. Yes, it's about the food. Yes, it's about the adventure. Yes, it's about the fun, the excitement. But what it took for you when you were bawling your eyes out every time you knocked an arrow, drew and released it, and when you got to do that on an animal, like, you're not the same person, and you're better for it because of all your experiences. It's so impressive.
Thank you for that. It has transformed the way I see life. I would say that my experience, I think the things, with archery or any hobby that you want to get into, if you want to be good at something, you have to put the practice in, and there's going to be failures. There's going to be hard moments, but telling myself not to give up, Johnny, like, I'm not going to give up. I have a vision for what I want to do and what I want to see accomplished. That brought stability to my life that I had not experienced. That brought confidence that I had looked for other people to affirm me for so many years that I could do something. And nobody, I mean, yes, I had very encouraging people come around me when they saw my excitement, especially Riverside Archery, the people, Gary, Jason, all the guys there, Josh. I can't thank them enough for encouraging me. But I ultimately had to decide, am I giving up? Is this going to be another thing that I put on the shelf, or does this really bring joy to my heart? Does it bring fulfillment? And so in those hard moments, choosing to keep pushing forward, saying, I'm not stopping. I'm not going to stop just because I don't know how to shoot this kind of release. I'm not going to stop because I don't know how to take that shot. I can take that shot and I will learn how to take that shot, transferred over into so many different aspects of my life that a lot of people that do know me say that don't even know about archery yet in my life go, what changed for you? So I would encourage anyone to pursue something and do it passionately. Don't give up.
Britt, you are literally speaking my language. A part of how I developed into the soulful hunter and learned hunting is I was searching for affirmation in my life. And until we find affirmation through ourselves, we're always going to be left with a sense of regret or unfulfillment. And I really
Mm-hmm.
feel like hunting was a way for me to teach myself that I am good enough and
Yeah.
that I am good enough whether I kill an animal or whether I don't, whether I see an animal or whether I don't. The fact that I am doing what I want to be doing is the affirmation that I needed in my life to then grow as an individual even more. And it's so cool to hear you say that. And when you get affirmation from other people, it's great, but it'll never be as powerful or impactful to your own soul and your own life until you do it for yourself. And I think that you are a soulful hunter, Britt. You're not just a lady with a bow. you are a soulful hunter, and I think that's beautiful. Wrapping up this podcast, I got a couple questions for you because you are brand new
Mm-hmm.
to hunting. What advice, and this is kind of a two-part question. So, what
Yeah.
advice do you have for new hunters who are trying to learn and they have this idea in their head like they want to kill an animal, like that's the precipice of hunting. What advice do you have for them that is the learning of hunting? And then the second part of that is what do you have specifically for women and for moms who might be
Yeah.
going down that road?
Great question. The first thing I would say is if it's something that piques any interest in your heart to want to hunt or even just getting into, and of course, because I'm obviously an avid archer just in general, but getting into the sport from the very beginning, or it could be rifle. I mean, I'm going to shoot with a rifle too. Decide that you're going to pursue it. Make the decision in your heart that this is something you want to go after. And then find trusted people that when you connect with them, and this could be at your archery, okay, I'm going to speak archery because that's my world, but, find those communities. I have not found a more encouraging, kind, informative, educational community like I have when I stepped into the archery world. But I had to ask. Nobody was just going to volunteer. I mean, yes, I got a few tips here and there, but if Gary listens to this at Riverside, he'll say to me like, Brittany, you're crazy. And I'm asking in the best way. I ask, can I apprentice there? Gary, can I just learn everything that you can? So saturate yourself in that world. Allow yourself to be humbled. Allow yourself to be humbled and take advice. Take advice from people that you respect, that you see doing their thing, their attitude, their vision for life. I think, Johnny, with you, and I hear this, I've actually had people reach out like, do you know Johnny Mack? And he's so encouraging. And for real, that's really true. I've had multiple people say, do you know this guy? And I'm like, yeah, I do. And that is true. That's what's spoken of you.
Well,
is that you're encouraging. Find those people. You're welcome. Find those people that want to pour in because we're here. I'm here. I'm super excited about any hunter. Will Weber just got a bow, and Ryan and I reached out and said, "Hey, Will, come on over. Let's get you going." Yeah, Will. Woohoo!
Yeah, shout out to Silent Will, aka Iron Will, who we had an episode with him learning how to hunt and what he learned. That was a powerful episode. I had a lot of people reach out after that. So it's cool.
That is a great episode.
But it's right, the community, and it starts with courage. It starts with you just advocating for yourself. Whether it takes creating a social media platform for you to find those people, or for you to go to your local gun shop or archery shop, or like loiter in Cabela's or Sportsman's Warehouse. Like start just
Yeah.
say hello to people and then
Just show up.
ask them questions. Just show up in the world. And this is why I talk
Just
about
show up.
this is
Yep.
where I talk about how do you show up in the world? What is it that you want? Because when you make the decision that you want something bad enough, you're going to get the results that you want. And
Yes. Amen to that.
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's change lives. Let's empower people across this world and across this nation, and that's what it's all about. That's why we're doing this.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great advice for hunters, new people, regardless of sex or role or whatever. What do you have specifically for moms and women that are looking to get into either archery, the shooting sports, or eventually hunting?
Yeah. Well, first of all, you just got to throw out the idea that because you're a woman, you won't be respected. These are things that I guess the cool thing that in my experience growing up is my dad always encouraged me to just go after things and not to see myself as weak or less than or anything like that. I didn't really feel like I had experienced the world telling me that I couldn't go after something. But there are a lot of reasons why, listen, it's intimidating as a woman. It was intimidating walking into my local archery shop. It's a male dominated sport, but that doesn't mean anything. It means, your gender means zero when you walk into the archery shop. That's something that we, if you're a woman and you can relate to this, we have to set that on the shelf. You got to allow yourself to just say, this is what I'm going for, and I'm going to show up, and I'm not going to be afraid that I can't do something. I think that, and that would be for anyone. That's not even male or female. We might just have a belief system about ourselves that says we won't be good at something. So there is such a strong community that is kind of underground in a sense that you don't even know exists until you open up those doors. So I would say if you're a woman and you're looking to get into hunting, there are so many encouraging platforms for it. There are so many encouraging husbands and wives that are involved. There's encouraging women that are involved. And if you ask people, I have found the hunting community, they want and they encourage people for the most part from what I've experienced. They want to see you grow and be accomplished in it. And they want to celebrate successes with you. I know that not everyone will be that way, but my experience has been that the people that I'm willing to take advice from, that I really want to hear from, those are encouraging people that will tell you to go for it. So as a woman, I think that it's a beautifully powerful experience to go after something like this. I do think that it is a part of what we were created for as well. And it's a joy, especially if you do have a spouse that hunts too. It's a really cool connecting thing. As a mom, and as any parent, period, we are tired, typically, right? Tired. We usually put ourselves, I'm tired. I'm going to be honest. I'm drinking a Red Bull and it is 8:27 at night just so that I can make sure that I had enough energy for this. And I love it. I'm so excited. I would have had energy anyways, but, sorry, my brain just stopped there for a second. Okay. I put myself on the back burner for so many years, Johnny. I lost, and I didn't lose it because someone took it from me. I lost it because I willingly gave it up. I willingly said, I'm not the priority. And in life scenarios, I'm not necessarily the priority, right? But we have to be encouraged in the things that we love. We need to go after that and make time for ourselves. And that is such a common thing with moms. Specifically, and women just not making time for themselves, not making time for the things. And it's okay if you don't like to shop. It's okay if you don't want to do a spa date. It's okay if those are not been the thing that drives you. And I think that I really, for a long time, tried to fit into a world that I liked, but I didn't love, if that makes sense. I tried to kind of go do all the things that they say women are supposed to like to do, but I always had this part of me that was ready for the adventure of something else. And it took until now to learn that, I can step into that adventure. I'm still very much a woman. I'm still very much for adventure. I'm both. It doesn't have to be one thing or another. You don't have to have a clear identity that. I don't know if that makes sense, but I think we imagine, oh, it's only tomboys that like this, or it's only this or that, but
it does. And I want to jump in right here, and I want to say this because I talk about this on the podcast a lot. It is an and life, not a or life. It's an and life, not a but life. I get to do this, but I get to do this, or I get to do this, and I get to be fulfilled. And it's very important. You got to love yourself before you can love others. And moms do not get fulfilled enough. They don't take time for themselves the way that they need as much as they could. And there's room for it. There's room. It's just you have to take a look at yourself, take a look at your priorities. Obviously, being a mother, my wife is a mother of 3. We have 3 young boys.
Yeah.
She just completed her hunter safety this year, and this is going to be something that we're going to progress in and see is like, okay, I know that you like to do these things. This year's been really hard on my wife. One of the things that fulfills her is traveling. And with 2020 being the way it is, traveling's not the easiest. And so how else can you get fulfilled? What is it that really can spark your soul? So this has been an amazing episode, very powerful, very inspiring. This is the exact reason of why people, if they do not address who they are, the world is at a disservice. To share who you are as a person is the most beautiful, loving gift that you can give to the world, is be the authentic you. Show up being you, not trying to fit in, not trying to be cool, not trying to look a certain way or say a certain thing or whatever. Be you. And when you are you and you love you, that's all that matters. And that is where you let your guard down and the world becomes this beautiful place and everything can be accomplished. So, Brittany, thank you so much for your time for this episode. Thank you for stepping away from your kiddos and your husband and all the amazing stuff that you got going on in your life. How can people find you on social media? And if they have questions, can they reach out to you and all that?
Yes. Yep. So you can follow me at Just a Lady with a Bow. And that is a humorous statement. And so that's Just a Lady with a Bow. And feel free to send me a question. I'm happy to answer. And if I can't answer, I'll put you in contact with someone that can. I'm all about growing the community. And especially if you're a woman and you're wanting to get into archery, especially, please reach out to me because you're my people. So, and I don't mean that to exclude anyone else, but I can't get more excited about women joining. It lights a fire in my soul. So
you find your tribe.
I'm happy to help anyone. Yep, I got my tribe. So there's some pretty amazing women out there too that we'll hook you up with. And men, when you're starting, we can get you connected with amazing people that are also doing the same thing. So
beautiful.
Thank you for having me on, Johnny.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. All right, everyone, go check out Brittany at Just a Lady with a Bow. However, she's not just a lady with a bow, and we're going to have to encourage her to change her name at some point to not just a lady with a bow. Anyways, guys, there you go. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Don't forget about our epic Christmas giveaway that we have going on right now, where so many different companies have just donated and blessed us and able to bless all of you. We got that going on. Nominations need to be in by Christmas Eve this Thursday, and we're going to be announcing the winner New Year's Eve. Everyone, be blessed. Be of good cheer. Life is working for you. It's not happening to you. Freedom on, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful.